2023 is going to be a great year, especially for EV fans. So many new EVs are hitting the market, giving buyers greater choice than ever before. In today's video, I'll detail the top 15 most exciting EVs coming in 2023. Welcome to the channel. This is Kirky Cars, and I'm of course Kirk himself. If you're into electrified news and car reviews, because I'm getting EVs on this channel in the new year, make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell icon. And if you also like hybrids, make sure to check out every new hybrid coming to the market on my main channel. So let's get right into it. If you're excited for 2023, for all the new vehicles, especially EVs, smash that like button. And let's start with the elephant in the room, CyberTruck. Is it going to come out this year? Well, I think it's supposed to. It was originally supposed to come out in late 2021, and here we are in well, I'm filming this late 2022 and it's not out. I'm expecting it to finally hit the market in 2023. And you know, its luster, its magic is worn off a little bit over the years after the original announcement, and pricing is not going to be the same on the CyberTruck either. So if we go to this original pricing here, you had 3 different tiers: single motor rear wheel drive, over 250 miles of range, 0 to 60 in 6.5. It could tow 7,500 pounds, and it was only going to be $40,000. This vehicle would sell like hotcakes, but this price and this vehicle are fiction at this point, a little bit, at least here in late 2022. So I do believe we'll have 3 tiers of the CyberTruck, but the pricing is going to be far, far different. I wouldn't be surprised if the starting price starts around 60K instead of 40K. But time will tell. How to get the elephant out of the room. The next vehicle on the list that I'm extremely excited for is the Streamliner. The Ioniq 5 was one of my favorite EVs last year that I drove. Make sure to check out my review on it. But the Ioniq 6 brings more efficiency in a sedan Streamliner form. This thing is going to be amazing. It's going to cost roughly the same as the Ioniq 5, but it's going to have 340 miles of range in theory. We haven't got EPA range, but that is incredible. It's supposed to be super slippery. I think 0.21 coefficient of drag, maybe a little bit greater for America since we actually have side mirrors instead of like video cameras on the side. And if you want the full fat, you know, 310, 320 horsepower dual motor, you'll still be able to get 320 miles of range in all-wheel drive. Now, they're not changing the battery pack either. If we look at the Ioniq 5 Kia EV6, most of them have the 77.4 kilowatt hour battery. And this just reminded me that the EV6 has dropped its small battery here in North America for the base model. So your only option now is that larger 77.4 kilowatt hour battery. Next up on the list is the Equinox EV. This is a potential game changer, bringing like an affordable crossover EV to the masses starting at $30,000. Now, that's just for the base grade, which is the front wheel drive, I believe, 250 horsepower, around 250 miles of range. That won't be available till 2024. I believe it's launching with this guy in late 2023, the 2RS model with 290 horsepower, 0 to 60 around 6 seconds, and should have like 300 miles of EV range. This is the potential like game changer. It should help price parity with ICE vehicles and give you more performance. With this sort of range, affordability, and packaging, I think this is going to convert a lot of ICE buyers or hybrid buyers into their first EV because it is so affordable and it has so much versatility. Next vehicle on the list is the Blazer EV. This is also going to be shared with the first Honda EV in America, which is the Honda Prologue. So seeing the specs on this gives us a really good idea of what's coming down the hatch for Honda. So this vehicle will start at $45K. This is the SS variant, which comes in at just under $70K. And if we go back to the spreadsheet, this thing is going to be crazy powerful. 557 horsepower, 648 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 under 4 seconds. It'll have a 100 kilowatt hour battery, have almost 300 miles of range. This thing is going to go toe-to-toe with another vehicle that we have on this list today. There will be a ton of different trim levels, just like the Equinox on this as well. So I'm really looking forward to this model. I mean, up to 320 miles of range in certain trims. So Chevy comes in 2023 with 2 new EV crossovers. And that's really going to tip the scales in their favor as an EV brand for sure. Next up on the list, the little Nissan Ariya. Some models are arriving here in 2022. Mass availability will happen in 2023. It's been available in Japan since early 2022, I should say. And we have all the trim levels and pricing here. I wish every manufacturer broke it down like this when we see pricing, range, horsepower, etc. It starts at 43,190 MSRP, which doesn't include destination. So tack on another $1,000 or so for destination. This model here gives us the most range, over 300 miles of range, but it's a pretty modest 238 horsepower. When you're spending $47K, is 238 horsepower enough? I really am excited to drive the new Ariya though. I hear it's really smooth. Not the most performance minded, but it has great materials and great design. I think the design on this is an amazing attempt from Nissan. So the new Ariya e-Force all-wheel drive, early 2023 availability, only 205 miles of range on the base e-Force all-wheel drive. So it has a smaller battery pack, 335 horsepower, and $47,000. So if you need to have all-wheel drive, you can get more power, but you're going to drop 100 miles in range over the Venture Plus. So it's almost like I'd rather give up the power and have another 100 miles of range, if you know what I mean. Then the top spec is kind of like the no compromise, except you're going to have to cough up the most money here, but it's not that much more expensive than the lesser powerful and lesser range e-Force. So like they're making this model seem like the best deal on the list, to be honest. Available in early 2023. Of course, the e-Force all-wheel drive, 270 miles of range and nearly 400 horsepower. 0 to 60 on this is probably going to be in the mid to upper fours would be my guess. So this is the Ariya to look out for if you're looking for an EV in early 2023 with all-wheel drive. Next vehicle on the list is a Kia EV6 GT, 576 horsepower, 0 to 60 in the mid threes or so. Just absolutely silly. It only costs about $62,000, which is less than a Model Y performance, and it gives you another 100 horsepower. And, you know, it's not going to be that much quicker, if at all, than the Model Y, but it's a great alternative. And the biggest thing I think that it compromises on is range. When you're buying a vehicle like this, you're probably just, you know, buying it for ridiculous acceleration, not necessarily touring across the country. So this will go head to head against the Mach-E GT as well, and the Blazer EV SS that we just mentioned earlier in the video. And they both offer massive amounts of horsepower, massive amounts of torque, and I think the Blazer EV SS will definitely have the edge up on it in terms of range, but it'll cost like $5,000 more. Great to have competition, if you know what I mean. Next up on the list is the Kia EV9. Now, we don't have full details, but Kia just teased this kind of teaser image. This is over at Kia India. So India must be getting this, EV9 as well. So 3 rows, supposed to come in around $55,000. We can take a stab at the motors. We're supposed to be able to get 300 miles of range out of this thing. But I want to look at the Genesis models because I think this is a great idea or a great starting point of where their motors could go. And I think looking at the GV60 here does make sense, but you would have 310 to 315 horsepower base, and then you could get the performance model, let's say a GT line, not a full-blown GT like the EV6, that would be silly. But I think having a GT line with 429 horsepower would be awesome. And maybe an overboost button like we get in the GV60, not necessary, but 429 I would be happy with in the EV9 GT line, and hopefully comes in around 70K. Base would be 55K with 310-ish horsepower. I think that would really appeal to a lot of people who want a large crossover EV. Now we're getting more into the luxury. The Lexus RZ 450e shares the same eTNGA platform with the BZ4X. It had a rough start to 2022. It drives great. It's one of the most balanced driving EVs out there. It doesn't feel too heavy or anything like that. Handling is great. Torque is great. Acceleration is good enough. But we know that the range is very limited here on this 71 kilowatt hour battery from Panasonic. So if we go down here, 220 miles of range, best case scenario, that's with the 18-inch wheels. But 20-inch wheels drops it down to under 200 miles of range. I still think that's enough for most people who are buying EVs. Most people are buying a luxury EV. It's probably not their only car, and they're probably not driving that far outside of their city limits. 312 horsepower will get us 0 to 60 in the low 5s, and it will be all-wheel drive standard. You'll have excellent build quality. It'll drive really, really smooth, but I will be driving this vehicle in the spring, so definitely stay tuned. I'll be posting stuff on my main channel and probably on this channel as well with the Lexus RZ. So this is going to really springboard Lexus into the future, as they want to be fully battery electric here in North America, Europe, and China by 2030. So hopefully this product's good, but I think they're going to be limited a little bit just with the platform, and that's why Toyota is really like hitting the drawing boards again with the new platform, maybe trying to take a little bit of Tesla's methodology and technology and philosophy, if that makes sense, and having EV only architecture, because the eTNG architecture does share a lot with Toyota's standard TNG architecture. So I don't want to go too much into that, probably did. So we need to keep moving. Audi e-tron not only gets a refresh, but they rename it to the Q8 e-tron. And this thing is going to be expensive, but it is going to be a massive upgrade. Let's go to the spreadsheet, because I updated the spreadsheet here. The base Q8 e-tron, 402 horsepower, 490 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in the mid-5s. And the battery size is now 106 kilowatts, and that will get you 327 miles of range. So massive, massive upgrade. I believe it starts around 65K. It actually might be a little bit more than that, maybe 75K to be honest. There's also the SQ8, which is going to give you an additional rough 100 horsepower here. And it's going to give you 3 motors, 2 in the back. It's going to have 718 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in the mid-4s, but that's going to drop your range to 270 miles, which, I mean, when you're getting that much performance, like I said with the EV6 GT earlier, are you really caring that much about range? Probably not. So very excited for the Audi EV lineup, the e-tron lineup. I will be getting Audis here on the channel and on my main channel, so definitely stay tuned for more Audi coverage. Heading on over to Mercedes-Benz now, the EQE SUV. We've already had the EQE sedan. We've also had the EQS. So now we're looking at a more of a mass market SUV here that will do well for them. I believe it'll start around $75,000 for the base 350 plus. That'll have 300 miles of range or so, 288 horsepower, 0 to 60 in the mid 6s. But you can also get that in a 4MATIC as well, the 350. There's also the 500 4MATIC, which gives you 536 horsepower. And then you're also going to have an AMG EQE SUV. I know it's a mouthful. And the AMG 53 will get you 677 horsepower, 0 to 60 in the mid 3s, with a top speed of 150 miles an hour, which is an increase over all the other EQE SUVs, which I think is around 130 miles an hour. So that kind of performance, though, puts it roughly in the same hands of the EV6 GT, probably for double the price, though. BMW has the iX, they have the i4, now they have the i5 coming out this year. And I don't know if it's coming to America, but we will have an i5 Wagon. And that's what we're looking at this render here from Top Electric SUV. This thing would be the first fully battery electric wagon in North America. Volvo will probably have a wagon like this eventually, but holy cow, if this thing comes to the market, this is going to be super, super cool. And we will have the i5 sedan coming, but what kind of performance would we expect from this? Well, let's just look at the i4, because I think the eDrive 40 as well as the M50 is a good basis. Minimum 355 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 under 5 seconds. That's quick enough. 81 kilowatt-hour battery. Hopefully prices around 60K starting. But you also have an M50, which, man, can you imagine that M50 wagon would be a hot wagon? Over 530 horsepower, 0 to 60 under 3.5 seconds. It would be amazing to have a hot wagon for BMW. I know they'll make it for Europe. Will they bring it to the United States? I just don't know. Let's not forget about Cadillac. We mentioned General Motors earlier in the video. What about the Lyriq? The Lyriq is also a good starting point for Acura's ZDX and ZDX Type S. So starting price around this is around $62,000 or so. We'll have 300 miles of range on the rear-wheel drive models, but there's also an all-wheel drive model coming out soon. But the thing is, every single Lyriq is already bought and paid for 2023. So you'd have to be waiting until 2024. But it is coming out in 2023. Minimum 340 horsepower without single motor, 5.5 seconds, 0 to 60. But the dual motor ZDX Type S / Lyriq will have 500 horsepower and a sub, or mid, should I say, a mid 4 seconds, 0 to 60 and we could have 275 miles of range on the dual motor and over 300 miles of range on the single motor. I think this has a strong starting price in the lower to mid 60s here. And man, competition's really heating up on the luxury end of EVs. Polestar 3. Now, I reviewed Polestar 2 on my main channel last year. I love the one-pedal driving. Volvo and Polestar's one-pedal driving is probably the best on the market, at least in my tastes. I love the driving dynamics of that Polestar 2 as well as the XC40 Recharge. They're very much the same vehicle, just in a different shell. And the Polestar 3 will come out originally built in China, which I wasn't impressed by the Polestar 2's build quality made in China. So maybe you want to wait until this vehicle is built in South Carolina for the following year in 2024. But that's not going to stop this vehicle from being amazing, in my opinion. It is expensive, starting at $85,000. And you can also add a performance pack, which is going to out the door be over $91,000, which gives you bigger brakes, more gold accents on the interior, etc., and a little bit more horsepower. But 0 to 60 is already under 5 seconds. You don't really need to be that much quicker. It only goes to 4.6. I remember beating Polestar 0 to 60 estimates in the Polestar 2. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is even faster than 4.6 seconds and 4.9 seconds respectively. So I'm excited for this vehicle. It'll have great safety technology, incredible performance, as they kind of want to be an alternative to Porsche in the electrified era. Here's a vehicle on the list that I don't believe is on the market, but will be hitting the market in two variations: the SUV/van as well as the pickup truck. This is the Canoo, and it will have 200 miles of range, 350 horsepower, and will be kind of like the Swiss Army knife of EVs. It says launching late 2022, starting price at $40,000. So I think it's fairly affordable for the package you're getting. Again, not the most range, but if it's just around the town, and you can also build this for off-road, you can build it for delivery, and that delivery price is what the $40,000 is as well. You can also get the truck, which looks really cool as well. I just would prefer the van because I have a family, but the truck will have over 500 horsepower, which is more than the 350 horsepower here on the van or the SUV, whatever you want to call it, around the same range. And then you can get all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive on the Canoo truck. I think it looks really cute, and I think it's one of the most futuristic looking EVs on the list here. So the design, in my opinion, is a home run. It's just super cute. It looks like it's something out of Cyberpunk, something maybe the CyberTruck, which wishes it had a leg up on the design. And I love the extendable bed on this thing. Really just, it's going to be a Swiss Army knife for many people out there. And pricing has kind of been leaked. So the more family one with 7 seats is around $50,000. You have a 5-seater around $43,000, and the base delivery vehicle with 1 or 2 seats is around $40,000. So I think it's going to have a really strong price point. Can't wait for these to start hitting the streets, and I would love to test one out on the channel because I'm a big fan of vans and utility and even trucks. So last vehicle on the list. It's not that I'm that excited for them. I'm excited to see what happens, because here comes this Vietnamese company out of nowhere, started building gasoline engine cars in 2017, completely have switched over to EVs, been flying out journalists from North America to the private island and showing all the VinFast different companies in Vietnam. Problem is that the prices are extremely high for a completely unproven company. So 402 horsepower sounds good on paper, but they're only expecting a 0 to 60 in like 5.5 seconds on the VF8 and the VF9. And the VF9 is a 3-row, which sounds exciting. But if you look at the models here, the VF9 starts at $83,000. I would rather have a Polestar for that price and have far more performance. So what do you guys think about the Vietnamese company VinFast? I wish them well. I want to see them to be successful, but I think with their pricing, and I think you can also, but these are with the battery prices included. Originally, they said, okay, well, you can lease the battery, pay monthly rent essentially on the battery. But yeah, what do you think about the VF8 and VF9? I think I put them in the spreadsheet as well. Yes, here we are. Look at the VF9, VF8, same horsepower. 402 horsepower, 457 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 and 6.3, 106 kilowatt hour battery, 320 miles of range, which sounds good. But the VF8 starts around 60K and the VF9, like I said, starts at 84, 83K. So I just don't see how this manufacturer is going to succeed here with their insanely high prices. Like, no one knows what build quality or performance or customer service are going to get either. So I'm going to end it there. Which company and which brand are you most excited for? Which model on this list? Man, I'm excited for all of them. That's why I put them on the list. I think from a budget perspective, the Equinox EV is going to really shake up the market in late 2023. I'm hoping CyberTruck makes it on the market. I'm looking forward to the Lexus RZ. The Germans just have so many things coming as well, and I'm just excited. I'll say that. Thank you guys for your support on this channel, and I will be coming out with a plug-in hybrid EV video, which models are coming for 2023 that I'm most excited for. And I'm going to end it there. Have a great start to your 2023, or whenever you're watching this, just have a great day. Take care of yourselves. Peace.